Good afternoon, YouTubers, subscribers, and friends and the like. It's Grant coming at you from, I have no idea, just past Serona, Texas. Today is Wednesday, the 4th, I think, of March, 2026. This is the next truck. Starting out the video showing you these mud flaps are thicker than the last ones, and they don't flop around in the wind as much. And depending on the guy that's in the factory at the time, there's more staples. Or this could be like a different package that you pay for, like the medium package in terms of mud flaps, because I've seen way more than that, way thicker boards, way smaller boards, way thinner mud flaps like I had on the last truck, way thicker mud flaps than this. Laredo even has thicker mud flaps than these ones. You know, Laredo has like this big, this thick, but that thick of mud flaps, they hardly even move in the wind. This is more what you should have. I don't know why they even sent that cheap crap last time. My guess would be somebody only pays for so much or something, but they're all going to the same factory, so I don't know why we're getting different boards. They can't really help, but the different mud flaps, all the mud flaps should be the same. You would think they'd pull them all off the same pallet. But anyhow, I'm headed to Ehrenberg, Arizona again. Just wanted to show you the next rig, which is the same exact thing, except for the mud flaps are way better. From this angle, you can see how that board is starting to bend downward there versus straight, or somewhat straight, and then goes down. That's from the weight of the mud flaps. And then I skipped on putting straps on, and I put the straps in my storage, and I bought cloth bungee cords, not rubber bungee cords, but cloth bungee cords to try that in an emergency type of situation if these ones bust. But the old guy was, well, I'll tell you that old story. The last truck I delivered on last Monday? Yeah, Monday, because now it's Wednesday, so yeah, Monday. And there was two other transporters there delivering at the same time. One was an old guy, and is 55 or 60 years old, give or take, and old enough to have white hair. Been at it for a while. I said it was with quality like 12 years or something like that. He's the one who told me I should get the cloth bungee cords, which I haven't even used yet, and tried them out. I've tried the rubber ones before, but the rubber just springs off. You know, you hit a hole and then you just go pew and shoot off. And I didn't find that very safe, but he said the cloth one shouldn't if you go from over, down underneath, and then hook it. So I bought the two pair that he's talking about, two of them for sale between $5 and $6 at Walmart. Found what he was talking about, bought them in case. I'm not going to put them on yet, because that's the other thing he told me, don't even bother putting them on yet up until you start to have problems, and then you just run with the current situation that you have on there. And then I also bought more white and black zip ties that you can redo the zip ties with, if in case they drop, because zip ties and those are a lot lighter than the straps I was packing. And then the straps, like I knew, if you put them down too tight, you'll end up snapping the board off, because the energy of the board has to go somewhere. When you hit a hole, the whole board vibrates, and that energy has to go through that board on both sides. And if you strap it down hard on one side or the other, or on both sides, to where you'll have both sides of that board vibrating all over hell, because there's nowhere for the energy to go to disperse. And so, which I knew all this, I just was trying to find a lighter weight solution to transporting, that way I can get down to hardly anything. And I have a sweater and a bag, so pull it out. I might get another packable puff jacket on top of it, but I have my sweater, my hiker's sleeping bag in here that's good down to about 40 degrees with clothes, and I don't know if I can reach it. It's way in the back. There we go. A teeny tiny little work bag, safe bag that I bought from REI. That's a says Pack Safe. It's got REI FD or whatever shielding around it, so you can put stuff that's, you know, like your card chips for your credit cards or whatever. You can put that in here and whatever, and it'll block that. And then it's made of metal, like stringy stuff inside, so it's a more durable bag. But I wanted to find something that was just big enough to fit the license plates in, which you can see. And it just barely fits the license plates. I have to fight them a little bit. But then that keeps my work stuff. I have a roll of tape. We'll have the bungee cords and the zip ties in there. My plates and decals. Pens to sign the paperwork with. And then a little bit of thing of toiletries. And then I have a pair of scissors in case I have to cut stuff off or whatever. But I shouldn't have to keep doing that anymore. I'll just keep strapping the thing in. And he said, you can technically refuse the truck, which I knew that. I could refuse those trucks that have the teeny tiny mud flaps. And he said he gets one about every 10 trucks and has to call it back in and say he doesn't want to take that truck, but he's on the yard. Can you get a different truck lined up because of those mud flaps? And that's what he said he does to just not have to deal with it, because that's easier than fighting them all across country. Just try to get a different truck when you're there, and if you can get a different truck, he gets a different truck. If he can't, then he's invited, but at least he calls in and sees if he can switch it last second or not or what. And I guess I never thought to do that. When I see those teeny tiny flaps, I just take it and went, because of, you know. But now that I have enough experience in it, I know they don't last half the trip. Not worth taking those thin flap trucks unless you're only going maybe 200 miles, because that's the most they'll ever last. But anyway, you could also tweak them with all that other stuff. And he said if you do plan on taking that, do what I did last time anyway, which was buy the glue from Love's Anywhere, like Fort Stockton Love's, where I'm gonna, in Texas, where I'm gonna fill this up and put the wash the windshield with. You can buy a jug of Gorilla Glue there and glue everything between the flap and the board, and just use the entire bottle, he said, and let it sit for an hour, and then you hit the road again, and it'll help hold that in. Or you could do what I was thinking of and cut holes in it where the grooves are at, and put your zip ties through there and zip it down to make it there temporarily if you had to. But I might just refuse those type of thin flap trucks in the future and try and get a different one. While I'm there at the yard, I didn't really think to do that just for that reason. But I guess it's a known thing and everybody does that or something. So this is information I learned from the older guy, and then there was a younger guy. So I'm 43 years old. That guy, the older guy, was 55 or 60, give or take. He had the white hair. The younger guy was probably late 20s, maybe, or mid 20s. He reminded me of what I was like in my 20s, just gung-ho, trying to, you know, do everything and anything to make the money. And he's flying back to take his second truck, and he's possibly going to end up taking a third truck by the time I end up delivering this one, because you can, these trips are 16 hours drive time, 1,145 miles if you went direct. And if you rent by your log, you can drive 600 miles, give or take, between 600 and 675 miles in a day, and then do your 10 hours, and then do the next remaining portion and deliver the following morning. So you can technically deliver these trucks every 3 days if you really want to do nothing but drive and sleep. But I don't know, the older you get, the more you realize there's more to life than just money. But he's your typical 20-year-old, you know, figuring that out for himself, and it has kids already, and you know, the house, a couple houses to pay for, and buying expensive tattoos and all this other stuff, and he's just doing your typical 20-year-old thing. Burning the candle at 4 different ends, or whatever they call it. And I was doing the same thing when I was his age. I was training to be a police officer. I was into the Army ROTC, and then I was going to the college at that university, at South Dakota State University in South Dakota, all at the same time. And I was burning the candle all over the place, because being a cop required you to be up all, you know, all evening, sometimes all night. And then you have to show up to court. Sometimes I had to miss class to go to court, and then I had morning classes. Then I would also go early in the morning to the PT for the Army ROTC, which is basically training to go into the Army, the physical fitness class in the morning, and then go to classes, and then go back for Army specialized training in the afternoon, then go to my evening cop shift, and then if the DUIs or whatever went late enough, I went halfway through the night. And I would do that routinely as a 20-year-old, and I would get by on an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep a night. It was nuts how you can just do that stuff in your 20s. And anyway, that's when I learned there's 196 hours in the work week. And then I was up, you know, doing stuff or moving from job to job or doing whatever for 168 hours of that work week. So if you do the math, I forgot to do the math for the video, 160 to 66, about 34-ish hours or something. I'm not exactly right on the math, I don't think, but I had basically 34 hours in that entire week to sleep. So you can imagine when you figure you're supposed to be getting 8 hours of sleep a day every day for 7 days a week. I was, 24 hours. And basically, and how I did that too, that's the best part, is how I did that is on Sundays was my day off everything. And I never saw a Sunday during those times because I went home, passed out, and was out the entire time until my alarm clock went off again, which was probably almost 20 hours at a shot. I would sleep that 20 hours as a reset, and then I would get up and do the 196 hours again. And back in your 20s, you could just go and go and go like that, and that is your best point in life. I would say if you're between the age of 18 and 28, that is your best years of your life. Enjoy that while it lasts, because then things start to slow down. You know, before you're 18, of course, you're wrapped in, you know, controlled by your parents, so to speak, if you have decent parents. And then, of course, you're let loose at 18. And for those first 10 years, from 18 on to about 28, give or take, best years of your life. I don't care if you're in college, if you're in tech school, if you're joining the military, whatever you're doing, you know, live life to its fullest during those years, because I'm 43 years old now, and I can tell you for a fact that every year past 28, things start to slow down. In my 30s, I was kind of, I don't know if you would call it, like, say, teenager, or, you know, kid all the way up to teenager, you have lots of energy. Then in your 20s, you can maintain work and energy and everything, and you just, you know, your brain helps you maintain that all the way through. Your 30s, you start to slow down a little, and now I'm into 43 years old, and I can feel the difference of not wanting to do as much, and some of it's being not in the greatest shape myself either, which I probably got to do something about, but part of that is driving all the time. I say driving all the time, but he's out driving me big time. That younger kid, and then probably his mid-20s or later 20s, is, I think he's on the plane, he's on the dance back from, you take if you do that trip, you take a lift from a local, various different local Mexicans basically run that factory in Ehrenberg. You take their lift to, different lifts to Blythe, California, then you can go west and go to Ontario, California's airport and fly back to Phoenix, and then fly from Phoenix to Austin, and then take a bus back to the San Antonio, and then take a lift back down to Elmendorf, Texas to get this again. And you could do that dance within, but it takes a day and kind of somewhat overnight, but you can get from Ehrenberg, Arizona at 8 o'clock in the morning the first day, and still be able to get to the yard to pick up the next truck at 7 o'clock in the morning when that yard opens up the next following day. So in that 24-hour time frame, you can get all the way back if you really want to gun it. And I did it this route around with the guys because that's the way they were going. So I just went with them to test it out, to do something different. And you can get back faster, but then you're on a bus all afternoon, you're on a planes all evening, you're on the ether bus in the middle of the night if you want to do that. And like I say, I need the full 8 hours. I would prefer to have the full 8 hours at my age. Sleep to me is way more important than driving the truck. But so overall, the trucks pay us about $800 because it's 1,145 miles, and then they take $300 worth of fuel. They pay us $800, give or take, in total. Not that start or end. I'm just saying the overall trip pays $800, and then it takes about $300 worth of lift and bus and plane and everything to get back to your next truck. So you're making about $500 profit, give or take. And especially if you're going back the same day like he's doing, you can get 3 trucks done in a week, roughly, if they line it up right to where you have the weekend truck right. Because he's gonna pick one up tomorrow, because he's on doing the dance today. He's picking one up tomorrow morning, and will likely go by me because I'm taking my time. But he will deliver that one on Thursday or Friday. Well, if he picks it up tomorrow, he'll be delivering it Friday or Saturday morning. Saturday morning if he's doing it by log, and then flying back to take the next trip truck that night, that Saturday morning or that Sunday morning, so somewhere like that. If he gets to the factory in time by 1 o'clock, cut off on Friday to deliver it, so he'll be delivering sometime Friday morning. He'll be flying back in and getting it Thursday morning and delivering it early Friday morning, so he's cheating the log a little on that one, but he gets there by 1 o'clock on Friday. He'll be able to do the dance again and be at the Elmendorf, Texas yard to get another truck on Saturday, and then he's got those 2 days, so Saturday, Sunday, and can drop it off on Monday. At the same time, I'm going to be dropping this one off on Monday. So he will take 2 trucks in the time it takes me to take 1. But like I say, I'm not rushing it anyway. In general, quality is fine with you taking almost double what it would normally take if you run your logs out, like I just got done saying. You would take 2 days, because it was 600 miles the first day and whatever remaining miles the second day for 1,145 miles, and then you deliver it. So if it normally would take 2 days to run your logs out and do that, you can take up to 4, usually. So you can bring that down to 350-ish miles a day, which is what I've been doing. And then if it falls on a Friday when you can't deliver it or whatever, if I don't make it there in time, then actually I babysat this truck for 2 more days till Monday, because they're not open on the weekend. So technically I could turn this into 6 days if I had to, because of the weekend overflow. But I'm not out here for the money, you know. $500 a week would be enough for me to survive on and start saving and whatnot. I can't see myself running myself ragged like that, driving 600 miles a day every day, and the only time I have off to sleep is I'm getting between plane, between bus and lifts and everything. I'm trying to take naps wherever I can, you know. That's what he's doing, and he's 20 years old and he can do it, and that's the difference in age. But I personally wouldn't be doing it. I mean, I would consider that if they paid me $3 a mile, which would end up being $1,500. Yeah, because I'm making $500 profit, so I'd end up being, well, more than that. It'd be just under $2,000 that you would make if they paid that $3 a mile to get there direct like that. Then I would do it. They pay you some good money to do it, but currently they're paying us 70 cents a mile, which 70% of the load, which would be $800 for 1,145 miles, and the difference is the $300 worth of fuel it takes you to get there with, that they basically count out on that. I mean, Navistar gives us the fuel card, but they're basically counting that against us, and we're not giving us the $1 a mile to do that, but we have the fuel card, their fuel card, and just, you can, the benefit of that is you shouldn't, but you could idle it at night if it got too cold enough or whatever, because it's not your fuel, it's their fuel. I mean, if you wanted to. I don't tend to do it, but some people do it. For me, personally, I just get into that sweater and that sleeping bag at night, and I'm in the cab, and most of the time that's good enough, as long as it doesn't get below 40, which out here in the desert doesn't really get below 40 in the cab, in all that gear. And of course I have a stocking cap and a neck gaiter and stuff like that to keep sections of my body warm, so as long as you cover all your whole body up, that's all I need. I don't really need to idle it. And then to idle the truck, it shakes anyway. The whole seat kind of shakes like a massage chair, which I'm fine with doing daytime when I'm up driving. It gives you a little massage while you're driving, but I wouldn't do it trying to sleep. I mean, you could eventually get used to it, but it's weird enough, I could sleep on buses and planes and everything that are vibrating away, but they don't vibrate as much as the truck does. But anyway, that was my video so far. I just wanted to rant on a little bit about the experience I had on Monday and why I didn't make a video on Mondays, because I was hanging out with them. The older guy went with us all the way to California, to Ontario, and then he got a rental car and went off to a CDL yard somewhere in California, because he has a CDL and we don't, and so we took this route back, the route I just did with the buses and planes and stuff, and it's the faster route. You can get all the way back the same day and be there, like I say, 8 o'clock in the morning, drop this off, and then be at the yard at 7 o'clock in the morning the following morning to pick another truck up if you really wanted to. I don't care to live that way, because the only time I could sleep is while you're moving, and I wouldn't mind doing that If it was on an open bus or something to where I'm in the same spot all night long on an open bus, I would do that if it was an open bus, because I could sleep good on an open bus overnight. You know, but changing, being up and, you know, moving around everything, I'm okay with doing that every now and then like I did that at night, but I don't get any sleep. It screws my whole schedule up. I would much rather take the time off in the airport and sleep overnight, or, you know, of course, be in the trucks and sleep overnight and get a good 8 hours in, so I feel better, so I feel normal, because otherwise you get what I like to call the bus hangover, or the flight hangover, or just a transportation hangover in general as you're going, because you just feel like you're dragging ass. And this life ain't worth dragging ass for 70 cents a mile, I don't think, but, you know. Other people got bills to pay. He's got 2 houses and kids and everything else. You know, he's got bills up the yin yang. He's got to make $1,500 a week or whatever at this job, or it doesn't make sense for him to be out on the road doing it, which I can see for other people. But for me, I got a $75 a month phone bill for 2 phones, and I have a $50 storage, and then anything else is just clothes, bags, or extra stuff for the truck, or my food. That's all I'm out here paying for. And then occasionally I get a room here and there at a hotel to clean my stuff up and clean myself up and whatnot, and rest in an actual bed overnight if I can find a decent hotel for like 45 or 50 bucks a night, give or take. You know, occasionally I'll get one for 100 bucks a night or something. But there's a couple good hotels in like San Antonio that I like, and then the one in Van Horn, Texas coming up, and then the one in Las Cruces in Mexico and stuff like that. So I know there's places that I can go to chill out at when I'm there at those places. But like I say, I'm not in a hurry. You know, by the time I deliver this, especially if I drag it out to Monday, he will have delivered the truck he's going to get now, and then flew back and got another truck over the weekend and met up with me essentially on Monday morning in the time it takes me to take the one. And I could do that same thing, run my log out, fly back during the day and evening, and be back there the next day, run my log out for 2 days. You know, in a 7-day work week, I could do 3 trucks if I really wanted to, and you would profit $1,500 at the end of the week from doing all that, but you get no sleep. And I don't want to live my life exhausted and dragging ass, so to speak, all week long. He kind of has to for the bills, but he can handle that at 20, so that's the difference. He's, you know, in his 20s. I could just gung-ho, I could handle everything. I felt like Superman back in the day too, in my 20s, and it reminded me of that, and I just wanted to make a video of it for us old people out there that are in our 40s, give or take, or older. You know, reliving your life when you're in the 20s. You know, it made me think of that when I was in my 20s. I could just go and go and go. Not so much these days. I've slowed down to about half that, and I can only imagine what it's like to get around at 60 at the rate I'm going. But hopefully I don't depress people who are older than me with this video. They're probably laughing at me going, yeah, I'm 60, yeah, I'm 70, whatever, you know, and I'm still going. But yeah, I remember my 40s, and that was, yeah, I could just imagine what that's like. But I don't know, I just thought I'd rant on for a little bit today and then upload the video and get back on the road. Like and subscribe, leave comments. I'll catch you in a flip. Peace.